Let's see how this camera angle works. I raise it a little bit to try and keep my hand out of the way. So Screaming Skull, you're doing the same thing, but just less. As you're going to feather it less into the armor plates. If that makes sense to you. I'm a brush licker. The angle helps a lot. I apologize for having a bad angle before. Anywhere you've already painted with the first layer of bone, do a second lighter layer with Screaming Skull. Now I'm pretty sure that if I took an army painted to the standard that I'm painting this guy, I would win best painted pretty much anywhere I went. You know, I'm not going to guarantee that at the major tournaments because there's the best of the best, but it would compete. It would be amongst the best. Trying to work a little faster for you here, guys. Sometimes I just become too obsessive over details, and I gotta work faster myself. I need a little buzzer that shocks me every time I get off frame. Almost done. Stay on frame. Now, I suggest to you guys that you can spend more time doing multiple layers of this. It will only make it look better. You'll get a feel for it as you work. The more you do, you'll start finding yourself going back and retouching some of the edges because it only improves your work. But that is up to you, my friends. I'm touching up some of my first lines with another layer of bone. And I'm going straight out of the pot here. I paint so thin anyway. I mean, I get such a small, tiny amount of paint on my brush. That's it. Oh, God. I hope I wasn't off camera too much. That's what I get for zooming in. All right, so that's it for Screaming Skull. And now we're going to let this dry. And I'm going to also paint the details black. And all of the purity seals, the ventilator, the cracks between the armor plates, the gun, the lenses, the ropes here, all those little details, the little coils on his arms, seals, black in between. And not going to do that on camera because, you know, it's just that's a mundane detail that I don't need to show you guys how to do. You can get that. Just noticed a couple areas that need a little love. It already looks very, very good. All right, let me finish up those details and come back. All right, here we go. Get in the middle. I re-angled my camera, so now I lost my point of reference on my mat. All right, so now I'm going to use my fine detail brush and come back in now and line in Seraphim Sepia. This will further accentuate that feathering that you did, but be very careful and precise where you're putting this. You don't want to reverse any of your work that you did already. Just kind of accentuate. If you do put a little bit too much on, erase it with a dry brush. Try not to get your highlights, but just kind of touch it into the recesses, the shadows here. And let it carefully build up again. Just to make those shadows darker. I'm trying to do this to avoid using black. I don't want to paint all the shadows too dark. But I do need contrast. Around the Deathwing symbol here on his shoulder, definitely. But don't go too far down into your shading there. See how I just reverse that blotch I just made? By quickly dabbing off paint wash on my thumb and then going back in and reversing the flow. See how that works? That little shaded area around the... I'm going to paint that red. See how I just blotched it on, dabbed it off, and sucked it back up again. I can even suck up some of that sepia that's still on my thumb. Too much there. Dry it off, suck it up, reapply. You have to make like a mental list of all the areas that you have to make sure you get. Like I always make sure I redefine the areas around the foot, the shadows there, the knees on the skull. The backs of the legs, definitely. Just kind of get that in there really nice on in the recessed areas on the legs. If you end up with too much at any one spot, you can go back in and fix it with a little bit of application of your bone color again. Do it while it's wet. If you let it dry at all, you're not going to get it off. Face is delicate, so be careful. This is the precursor to the last step of highlighting. There we go. A little contrast helps bring out those highlights. All right. Pause. Be right back. Next highlight. What I have here is a little bit of a mixture I made. It's 50-50. Screaming Skull and blood and white. I took half a pot and just mixed in some white. Nope. This is your highlight. But you know what? Before I do this, I'm going to go back and retouch one final touch of the Screaming Skull. I was pretty liberal with that reshade. Now I need to do a little bit of retouching. This is what I mean about going back in and taking more time to reapply your highlights. Especially in some of the most important areas. I'm only going to really worry about stuff like the hands, the arms here, that knee pad for sure, the face. I'll do the eyes later. I'm just kind of ignoring that skull on his head. Get the very front of the power fist cuff. Drag a little bit up into the plate. Feet. Now, I'm going to go right into the next step on this. Because I'm ready to, and you don't really have to wait. You can just keep going lighter and lighter. So here we go. Next step is, see that we had a lighter shade here? Not a whole lot lighter, but enough. And I'm just gonna very lightly drag this over the edges the way I have been all along. The key here is minimal. When I say minimal, I'm talking almost no paint on your brush. Really focus on the leading edge of the mask there to really get that edge to pop. The edge that goes around. Notice how I needed a little support, so I'm putting my pinky on my thumb that's holding the model. Hopefully you can see that really beautiful effect that just happens as I do this. This final stage of bone really brings out everything. That last shade that I just put on, this kind of makes it all just happen. Drag it up the edge, feather it in. Hit every one of the studs on the fist. You know what I mean when I say hit, right? Just touch them. Just touch each fist just a little bit, just to make the point stand out. Each stud, I mean. All right, armor's done. Time for detailing. More to come.